Welcome to the podcast where I show you get to be free, even if you have a brain that doesn't want to be, and especially if it wants to run away when things are getting rough. But you know, underneath it all, you are made for more, and you are determined to find it. I'm Emma Upton, and I'm here to show you how changing your thoughts literally is the pathway to changing your entire life. That thing that you want most is actualized through changing something as simple as our thoughts. So let's dive into today's episode. So today's episode is centered around this notion you get what you want most in the places that you most don't want to be. Now, let me give some context to this. I'm not saying put yourself into unsafe places. You are a very intuitive, powerful human being. You don't need me to spell out that if something is literally physically unsafe, don't go there. What I am talking about is something beyond the physical safety parameters. And yes, we can get into this dialogue of emotional safety, and there's a whole dialogue to be had around it. But so much of the time, what it actually comes down to is your brain is dedicated to one thing, keeping you safe. And the more you go into that cycle of just looking for safety above and beyond everything else, the more we stay stuck. I use the notion of an emotional safe house that doesn't actually feel all that safe when we start looking more objectively about it. So, holding that wider context as we're exploring this together, if we know that our brain is determined and always looking to get back to this emotional safe house, the same space that it feels most comfortable and most regular, let's hold that context as we're looking at this. You get what you want when you're willing to put yourself in the places that your brain doesn't want to be. This has all come from, I've just come off a call with a one-to-one client, and what she is sharing with me blows my mind, blows her mind in the best possible ways. And she is navigating, she's creating this whole different life. Like Netflix deals and all sorts of the most incredible things, while still inside the reality of right now. She's got like this dual life that she's in love with, but there are things that are in her life at the moment that are still calling her because she's energetically still matched to those things. So the conversation we had was, do you get to choose out of this? Like, are you in a position where you can just go, you know what, I'm done there? She's like, no. I'm like, of course. The universe doesn't allow us to just step out of there when there are things that are in our way, when there are lessons for us to still be learning there. So of course you can't just step out of there. I was like, oh my, it never gets old for me. It never ceases to blow my mind. I was like, okay, so the work that we get to do is here, that place that ideally you'd most like to step out of. And the comparative that I gave was, what you're navigating right now would be like me going back to my very first school when I was a primary school teacher before this world, going back to my very first school with my very first head teacher who scared the bejesus out of me. Like I was in such a space and she was in a space, it was a real rough time. And I said to her, what you're navigating now is like plopping me back into that school with that head teacher, with that team around me and saying, now be the master, now be the mind master. What are you going to do? Those moments are really testing. I would really like to imagine that if I got put back in there, I'd nail it. That's what my brain is telling me, like, whether I would. Because it was all of those lessons that I was trying to run away from and trying to stay away from, all coming at me at a million miles an hour, being like, this is holding you back, this is getting in your way. If you don't do something about this, it's going to come and bite you on the arse. And my goodness, did it bite me on the arse in intense ways, to the point of unexplained lower body paralysis. That's how bad it got. But what I'm always seeking to do, why I stepped out of teaching, so I left that school. When I was doing the work, I was realigning my thoughts, I was realigning the chemistry inside my body. Nothing was changing at the school. Everybody stays the same. Nobody was doing this work. I was getting different. I was changing my attitude. I was changing my thoughts. I was changing my behavior. So much of my work is teaching how to actively do this. I was changing. And so I felt stronger, more powerful, different. And then the opportunities opened up. This very Of course, everything that happens in our life, it's like you couldn't make it up. Like it was really weird. It was this really strange thing that happened. But yeah, of course, those moments always come about, don't they? And so I was at this mother and toddler group with my little teeny tiny twins at the time. They were so small. And I'd never been to this place before, but I woke up that morning. I was like, that intuitive knowing was like, go to that play group. I was like, I don't really want to. And then it felt stronger, like, go to the play group. I was like, okay, fine. So I rocked up at the play group. And there was a mum there who was also a teacher, and she was talking about this job opportunity that had come up for her, and she was deliberating it, but the hours didn't quite work and this and that. I was like, well, those hours work perfectly for me. So that was the start of me transitioning into my new school. And then my new things that I did when I left that school, I wasn't running away from my teaching career. I didn't think that there was anything wrong in that school. And that's a point in life that I really like to get to. I am obsessed. And if you know you're here for more and you're not going to stop seeking until you actualize that more, this is a really cool tool that I use day in, day out, that my client today, we spoke about today. I get really comfortable in the discomfort of my current circumstance. I didn't leave my first school, even though I was being told repeatedly by everybody that loved me, what are you doing? Get the hell out of there. That is not the place for you. Like, even though that place wasn't a good place for me, I knew. I don't know what told me, but I knew that I had to get strong there. Now, there's two ways to look at this. Your brain, remember, wants to take us back. My brain, your brain, everybody's brain wants to take us back to what is most familiar. So sometimes we go to want to change. We stay in that circumstance. We're like, oh, I'd like to change. I'd like to do something different. And we think about it, but actually we're just keeping ourselves on this merry loop to come back to this original starting point again, and then it all starts again. It's really important that we're on the lookout for that. So don't stay somewhere and keep yourself in this loop, this tedious, relentless loop that keeps you in the same karma, that keeps you in the same trauma bonds, that keeps you in the same attachments. Be on the lookout for that, but stay there knowing you're going to do the work and you are going to do the changing. You are going to actively and intentionally change the thoughts, which change the chemistry, which allows you to then vibrate at a frequency that is who you are, and you can project that out into the world. When you can do that in a really naff situation, it's like, I always call it like compost. It's the stinkiest, smelliest, worst parts, all chucked on. When we can grow in that circumstance, you're unstoppable. And I'm taking a dramatic pause. You literally become unstoppable because you're not expecting anything or anybody else to change or do it differently, because that's where so many of us get stuck. Life will feel better when I'm not around those. And we label them as toxic people, but I've got a lot of problems with that word. When I'm around these people, when I'm in this environment, when I'm picking up this salary, where I'll feel better when all of this changes. But when you stand in that, with the people, with the environment, with the lack of resources, with the lack of money that you've got coming in, you're exhausted, like all of this, and you can stand there and go, but I'm going to change. I'm going to take my power back. I'm going to stand here right now, and I am going to decide to do it differently because I am that powerful. While the rest of the world is trying to navigate and orchestrate everything out there, I'm not. Like, the world's nuts. I don't know if you recognize or really, like, it's nuts out there. I am doing what I can do with the energy that I have. But if we focus on out there and trying to change out there, we get very lost very quickly. What I do is I stand in the chaos of it all and say, you know what, I'm going to do better for me right here in this. And then I look and I see. And what the conversation that we're having this morning was, stand before you even enter that place. Say it is a place of work, because that's where so many of us spend so much of our time, and it takes so much energy from us, doesn't it? When we're around people that we wouldn't choose, when we have to do jobs that we wouldn't choose unless we were being paid to do them, that can take a lot from the normal energy of that rainbow flow just coming out of you, and it feels like ease. It zaps a lot of that rainbow so it doesn't get out. So before you're even at the threshold, it takes awareness. That's why you have to be determined that you're made for more. You're like, I'm here. for a reason. It's bigger than me. I know I'm here for more. I'm not going to stand in this. I'm going to do something. It requires energy. But let me tell you, it requires so much less energy than you giving all your power away to everybody else. So you stand at the threshold. Let's pretend it's work, but it can be a relationship. Before you walk into the bedroom, use the context for whatever feels good. But stand at the threshold of it and be like, okay, I know where my brain is going to go. When I enter this threshold, I know where my brain's going to go. I know what chemicals are going to be coursing through my brains. And it doesn't feel good. Like, do I want that? And then we come into, it will be speaking to you from somewhere in your body. There will be this feeling somewhere inside you, inside your body, and you'll be thinking, okay, I feel it. Notice where you feel it, and then go to your breath. My favorite breath is a big inhale, an extra inhale just when you think you can't, and then an all the way out breath. It's so annoyingly basic. It's so easy. That's why I'm obsessed with this word ease. Like, how easy is that? Oh, before I fall into the routine of what's going to be in front of me, I'm going to stop. I'm going to bring my awareness to it, and I'm going to take a breath, and I'm going to come inside my body rather than just letting my head lead. It's like, I've got to do this. I've got to do this. I'm so busy. I'm going to hurry through it all. When you can do that and you can bring that energy into, it's like you're taking your power back. You're like, yes, the people I am around make bizarre choices that blow my mind. But me thinking about that, creating the chemical concoction inside my body about that, is helpful on no level for me at all. So you know what? Every time I notice myself doing that, I'm going to bring my awareness back into my body. When we start there, when I feel myself into those situations where I'm like, oh, I'm meant to be here, but it doesn't feel comfortable, the most basic thing that I come back to above and beyond everything that I've created is that breath of like, be here, be aware, bring awareness to this moment, the only moment that exists right now, and stay here, come into your body. And then it's so much easier to walk in and just be and allow the nonsense of what we all have going on, because we're all humans and we all have our weirdness. The nonsense of everybody can just literally just fade from you. Really? With a breath? If you do this breath, you know. And you know. And you're saying like, yeah, literally. But sometimes I forget. This is why I'm obsessed with the sensory element of my work, because the brain wants you to forget. The brain's like, don't you go changing this chemistry that I've literally changed. Your DNA can turn on or off proteins so that it makes this whole process of creating the chemicals that is most regular to you in your body. So the neurotransmitter, your body's literally changed so that your thought patterns and your chemistry, you can go back to that space like this. If you start interrupting that, like, oh no. No, when we see Sandra, we're really annoyed. Like, what are you doing taking a breath? I've literally set up everything to be annoyed and responsive and triggered. Like, what are you doing? When you can see this pattern just trying to bring you back to your emotional safe house, your body trying to bring you back to the chemicals it's most used to, your thoughts trying to take you back to the thought patterns and the neurology that's most embedded because you use them most often. Like, and then the sensory part is the best bit for me because we forget to do this because I'm just back in my emotional safe house and I'm pissed off at Sandra and then I'm like, oh, why? Oh, yeah, because I am just being absorbed by the external. Let me bring it back. So that would be Francis. So pink, you see me in my pink hoodie? Francis is loud. So I would be recognizing there's things around me all of the time that are the colors of the rainbow reminding me of what part of the formula my brain is trying to take me back to. It's like, I am triggered here. My orange, I am triggered here. I am going into this environment and I'm having this emotional thought response to it and I'm triggered into this reaction. Do I want to stay here? No, it feels rubbish, even though I've done it for most of my life and it's probably been passed down through generations. I don't want to do that anymore. And so I come to my breath. Something so basic and simple. And the more you do it, the more you interrupt that neurology. And it's like, oh, we don't want to go there anymore. You're like, no. And the brain's like, oh, well, I can literally do this for anything you want. Yeah, can we focus more on the internal? It's like, yeah, like beta brainwaves keep you out here. I thought you liked beta, and it's like, no, I want to go into alpha, please. I want to be in alpha more regularly. Can we do that? And the brain's like, I love alpha. I love alpha. Let's go into that. Let's go into alpha. Like, why not? Well, that feels better. Alpha allows us to concentrate more on the internal, where the true creation takes place, where we can align ourselves to the quantum, which is nuts. But the more I look into quantum physics, I'm like, oh, this is how it all works. That's wild in the best ways. Then suddenly Sandra at work isn't so triggering. Just simply by being able to come back to your breath and focus in on yourself, and you're literally sending the message to the brain, I don't want to be out there anymore, please, because this feels good. And you don't miss out. I can hear Francis now like, oh, we're going to miss out on the whole world then. What about my kids? You get to think of the center of that space. You're going to be more inclined to look for the joy. You're going to be more inclined to look for the good things that your kids are doing rather than them annoying you, just the way that Sandra did, because you've got that neurology hardwired into your brain to be triggered by that. It's a really different perspective on the world. So if you know that you're here for something so much greater, every opportunity is an opportunity for learning and growth and expansion. And that sounds really cliche, doesn't it? It's like, oh, that sounds like a lot. It's far less. It's far less than going out in the world and being triggered and finding it a really challenging place to be. So take that environment, take that relationship, take that area of wealth, take that area of your health, take that area that you know you're falling into habits and patterns that are not serving you best. And watch your mind. Watch how quickly your mind wants to go into the familiar routes and start to get aware of what they are. With that awareness of, oh my God, every time I see this person, my brain wants to go here. Or every time I go to think about work, or I go in this office, or whatever it is, my brain wants to go here. That is the brain trying to take you back to what it knows and what is most familiar. And the only thing, there is more complexities to this. As we become more in control of our brain, we can manifest at deeper levels, we can connect to the quantum at deeper levels. It all becomes a much easier process. But at the essence of everything that I teach and everything that I learn as a student of this world and a student of my own one, is to stop the brain when you see it doing something that doesn't serve you. Oh, the way I behaved at my old work, that didn't serve me in any way, shape, or form. I wonder if me today could get popped into that school with that exact team, with that exact senior leadership team, and be able to stand in my power and be like, hey, this isn't working for me. Like, could we? Maybe we? How about? And when all the nonsense is going on, I could just be like, oh, it's so strange. We're so strange as humans, aren't we? All of us, me included. That would have been a very, very different experience. What we want to do in those experiences, though, is run. They're weird. They do it different to me. I don't feel comfortable here. I want to go. I want to change my environment. But what if? What if you hold this notion? I am here for so much frigging more. It's a little bit scary sometimes, but I know it. I'm here for so much more, and I can see how I want to move away from this environment. But what if I stay? And what if I use all of my experiences here as the manure that it is to allow me to alchemize it, to awaken to a new enlightenment? Like that's the work that I want for all of us. And that is the work that I seek to do every single day, using the sensory hacks as my springboard to be like, you get to choose more. You get to do this at a different level. You get to transcend and see it at a different level over and over again. And I don't know where the limit is, but I don't want to find it. I don't think there is one. It's the best experience. When you send the message off, I am going to go no matter what the environment, no matter what the people, no matter what they're doing, I'm going to go, I'm here for more, and I'm going to transcend. That is when the real life magic collapses into 3D, and it is mind blowing. Where do you see that you can do this in your own world? Thank you for being part of this episode, and never forget, the power that you have over your mind is the power that you have over your life. Thanks for being here.